I want to share with you exactly how to create the most powerful connections so that if this is something you really want to get better at, you automatically, from the get-go, even in your first few connections and first few introductions where you're connecting other people, you come across like a pro. I'm going to give you a little secret today, something that has exponentially helped me grow my business. And even as a brand new entrepreneur, it made me really, really valuable. We're going to talk about how to become a great connector. Now, you might be listening to this and thinking, I don't know that many people. I don't have a big network. How could I possibly become a really great connector? Well, everybody starts somewhere. And the way that I learned this was actually when I started my first business, I joined this local networking group. And it was one where you had to apply to join. It was like this whole process. And I remember having such self-doubt because I was new in business. I didn't have a lot to offer the group as far as value. But I remember that when I put on my application, that I ultimately think had them say yes to me joining that group. And it was like, actually a little bit tough to get into these groups because they only had one person per business category. So if you were the insurance person, you were the only insurance person in that group. It was pretty cutthroat. And I remember thinking, well, why would they choose me? I'm brand new. I don't know that many people. I don't have a lot to offer. And in that moment, I decided to reframe it because I definitely felt like being in this group could really propel my business. And it did. And I remember thinking to myself, well, what I lack in a network at this moment, I will be the person the most dedicated to growing my network and increasing the number of people that I can refer in the next year. And I just remember setting that intention for myself that over the next year, I was going to learn how to become a great connector. I was going to grow a network that could add a lot of value both to the new people I was meeting and to this networking group that I was joining. And I just set out to be that person. Now, there's more to it. I'm not just saying, okay, you just set out to be a great networker and now you're a connector. I think there's some things that I learned that really made the difference in how connections were received and how valuable they felt. So I want to hone in on one or two really simple shifts that you can make if you're listening to this and thinking, yeah, actually becoming a great connector is something that I really, really want to do and be. And maybe a year from now, people start to know you as the person who knows everybody. And it's funny looking back now because this was about 10 years ago, maybe even a little bit more when I started my first business. And like I said, I didn't really know that many people. I was even new to the city I was living in. Fast forward 5 or so years later, and even up until this day, now I am the person that people reach out to when they're looking for anything. I have gotten 3 texts in the last week saying, hey, so-and-so is looking for a referral for a stylist or for this or for that. Do you know anybody? I knew you'd be the perfect person to ask. And I really want to underline that that wasn't the case for me. That was not something that I was known for or that I was good at. In fact, I had a ton of social anxiety. So if I can do it and I can establish myself as a great connector, so can you. And I really want to underline that this is something that just adds tremendous value to your personal brand. For you to be known as the person that people want to come to when they need something, when they need a referral, when they need a recommendation. So I want to break down a couple nuances to being a great connector that make all the difference. And I've learned these the hard way because I've definitely done it the wrong way. And I've been on the receiving end of connections that just feel more valuable than others. And I don't want to gatekeep. I want to share with you exactly how to create the most powerful connections so that if this is something you really want to get better at, you automatically, from the get-go, even in your first few connections and first few introductions where you're connecting other people, you come across like a pro. Okay. So the first thing that I notice is when people are making connections, this one nuance makes or breaks the connection. You could be connecting me with the most valuable person in the world. Let's just say I have a dream. Okay, there's a couple of dream guests that I'd love to have on the podcast / the Powerhouse Women stage. In case anybody knows them, I'll just put it out there. Kris Jenner is one. Martha Stewart is another. And then there's like a whole other list. Of course, Oprah, Sarah Blakely, like the who's who of female entrepreneurs. So let's say someone said, hey, Linz, I want to connect you with one of your dream guests. It feels like, oh my gosh, like that would be amazing, right? But here is one step that if this isn't in place, it actually could ruin the connection altogether and almost guarantee that I probably would never have a chance to connect with that person. The one subtle difference is permission, meaning, does the other person in the connection, did they give permission to be connected? When you don't have permission, it can actually backfire and devalue a connection. The same way that if you ask permission and then you are really clear with both parties why you want to connect them, that it makes all the difference in how valuable that connection actually feels. So as you're out there, as you're networking, as you're meeting people and you think, gosh, these people need to meet each other. Yeah, I actually think I need to connect these people. And you know that being a connector is something that you're really committed to and you really want to add value to people in that way. The first step, the first thing you want to do is ask their permission. You guys, this sounds actually so silly coming out of my mouth. Like, okay, well, duh. But it's not obvious. Listen, and I say this with so much love. The number of connections I have been sent out of nowhere where I didn't know they were coming and I didn't expect that person to reach out and say, hey, I want to connect you with so-and-so. I have lost count. And I really want to help all of us be better and be more effective at connections because I believe so deeply in how powerful they are. But I want to kind of walk you through the proper way to do it and then the way not to do it so that we can all really elevate our skills and be better resources for one another. So how a dream connection would go. So let's say I see the advantage. I think there is so much synergy to connect to people that I know. The first thing I would do is I would go to person one. I would say, hey, I have a friend that I really think there's synergy for you two to connect. And I would give a specific reason why. You both have a podcast. You have a book coming up. They could share about it. Whatever the reason is, a really specific reason why I believe there's value for those two people to connect. And I would do this for both parties. Hey, I think there's value for both of you to connect. I would ask individually, get their yes. Once there is a yes, the next step is even just as important as getting the permission, is to write a really thoughtful introduction. So instead of just saying, well, okay, I'm going to give both of you each other's email address, have at it, happy connecting. I would not just ask permission. I would say, hey, what method works best? Do you want a text? Do you want a DM? Do you want an email? And then as soon as I know which form I'm going to connect them, I would put us all into a message and I would take a few moments to edify both people to each other. Now, I've probably already done this. I've probably already said, okay, hey, friend one, I really want to introduce you to this other friend of mine. Here's why. Here's the amazing things that they're up to. Is that something you're open to? Yes. Okay, great. Now I would redo that again in the introduction message, whether that's a DM, a text message, an email, short, maybe 2 sentences, a heartfelt message, edifying, putting, praise on the other person, making not just the person being edified feel good, but also making the person I'm connecting them with feel really excited. And I would do that for both parties. I would say, friend one, meet friend two. Oh my gosh, this is the incredible thing she's done. Here's why I love her. We've known each other for this many years. And then friend two, I'm so excited to introduce you to friend one. Here's a little bit about them. And I know you two are already, expecting this introduction. I'm going to let you take it from here. Now, does that take a few extra moments? Yes, that actually takes a lot of few extra moments to, number one, get the permission, to ask first where people want to be connected. And then the third piece is to take the time to write that very thoughtful introduction. But I want you to just sit with how it feels to receive an introduction like that, a connection like that, versus some of the other ways that, again, we're not doing it. And I did this too. It's not like I did it maliciously. I just didn't know that there was a proper way to follow in order to do this. So, for example, if I'm just connecting to people out of the blue randomly, and I don't know if it's a good time for them to connect, I don't know if they have bandwidth to connect, what I could be doing is setting one or both of them up to be disappointed, meaning maybe they won't get a response back, or maybe they're going to feel kind of guilty because they're like, I really don't have time to connect with someone new, but gosh, I really respect Lindsay. I don't want to, just ignore this. It starts to put an unnecessary tension or awkwardness in between a connection that doesn't need to be there. And especially as you start to network at higher levels, people who are really, really busy and they're up to big things, this could not be more crucial to make sure that you do if you're ever connecting someone with a really, really busy person. And especially as my calendar has gotten busier, I really appreciate this on a whole new level, because I want to make sure that if I am responding to a connection, if I'm going to actually take the time, maybe be on someone's podcast or, do a little DM exchange with them, I want to make sure that I'm bringing my best. And there are certain seasons where I don't have the same bandwidth as I do in others. So when someone's sending a connection, they're doing it, I know, from such a place of service and really wanting to add value to both people they're connecting. But I know for me, it feels a little bit like pressure when I don't know that a connection is coming. I don't expect that it's coming. And then this is just the recovering people pleaser in me. I feel super guilty if I'm not able to give that connection the time that it really deserves. So I just want you to think about this. I do believe that learning to become a great connector is not just about how many people you know, how many people you can introduce to each other. Becoming a great connector is just as much about how you facilitate those connections and introductions as it is about how many people you have in your Rolodex. Although I don't think a Rolodex is even a thing anymore. But you know what I mean? Your contacts, your phone contacts for anyone, under the age of 35. So I just want you to really think about this, because as we're heading into a new year and you're going to be attending events, you're going to be meeting people, I do want you to be thinking about how can you help people connect with one another. Being the person who facilitates connections adds incredible value to you as a personal brand. But make sure that you're doing it in the correct way, asking permission first, taking the time to edify and create a really, really beautiful introduction for every single person involved. This is going to go such a long way. No matter if you are starting and you're listening to this with a network of 0, or if you already have a beautiful, thriving network and you just want to be more intentional this year with helping that network meet more of the people in it. And I really hope that this helps. I am just so grateful for this community. I really am. I've been having this moment, especially as we started to share more video of these podcast episodes, whether or not you've had a chance to check out the videos on YouTube. I've just gotten some incredible feedback, especially about how much you guys are loving the different vibe of the guest interviews, because I'm getting to sit with people in person. And it just goes such a long way. Just know that I appreciate every single DM, every single review that you leave for the podcast. And whether today is your first episode or if you've been with me since the very, very beginning, I just appreciate you so, so much. And I hope I get to connect with you in real life at some point this year. We have the Powerhouse Women event coming right around the corner, and that would be the perfect opportunity. I'm just saying, if you love this podcast, I would love to see you in that room.